Dan Williams with Survive Outdoors, Wilderness Medicine. We talk about all kinds of stuff on it. We talk about injuries in the outdoors, what happens if you get hurt, how do you treat it, how do you prevent it. We do some gear reviews. We discuss all kinds of venomous critters from ticks to snakes to spiders, mosquitoes, you name it. Today, we're going to address alpha-gal syndrome. And no, alpha-gal is not some rock band on the West Coast. Alpha-gal, and that's basically a sensitivity and a reaction that you will get after a certain tick bites you, and it starts this IgE sensitivity. IgE is one of the many antibodies we have. So I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible without dropping a ton of biochem in here. So what happens is that apes, primates, humans, we do not have this, we don't basically break down this polysaccharide, this alpha-gal. And what happens is that we then produce antibodies. Well, once you have a ton of antibodies towards something, you're going to basically produce histamine, mast cells, and then histamine. And now you got a histamine response and cytokines and the whole 9 yards. Remember cytokine storm back in the COVID days. So what happens is this tick bite, which comes from one of two ticks that we know of so far, especially in the Midwest, is going to be, and it's actually over on in the South also, there's quite a few, is the Lone Star tick. It's got the little white dot on the back, and the black-legged tick. So those are the two ticks that are notorious. Primarily is the Lone Star tick, this one. So this tick bites you, and all of a sudden you have this sensitivity to it. But so far you're not having, you may have a little red spot and it may itch, but you really don't know you have that sensitivity until sometime down the road you get a nice juicy sirloin, or you have venison or lamb or a pork chop, and about 3 to 6 hours after eating it, you're going to break out into one hell of a rash. So I'm going to throw a couple rashes up here for you. Actually, the rash of alpha-gal syndrome is urticaria hive-like rash, where you get these geographic kind of blotches, just like hives are an allergic reaction to something you've eaten or something you've gotten in contact with. So this first rash here, that is not what you're going to see. That is actually an allergic reaction to amoxicillin. Now this next rash is an urticarial hive-like rash. That is the kind of rash that you most likely would get with an allergic reaction from alpha-gal syndrome. Now you could imagine how big of a pain in this ass this is to diagnose. A person comes in, they break out, and they got this urticarial rash, this hives, and you're like, well, what have you gotten into? What have you eaten? What have you had? You're not even going to, as a clinician, we're not going to think, it's not going to be top 3 at all. So it behooves us as providers to, and for you as the patient, to tell us everything. What did you eat in the last 2 days? When did the rash start? Did it start 15 hours, 20 hours after you ate? What was your last meal? Are you an outdoor person? Do you love hiking? Do you love camping? Has this happened to you before? So there's going to be a ton of questions where we're going to have to pin this down. And a lot of times, this diagnosis is missed. And it's missed because of that reason. And then what happens, they'll go out and they'll have another reaction, and they'll come in, and on the second or third time, then usually we nail it. And one of the ways to find out is they'll do some, the pinprick test, and you'll see how you react with red meat, and boom, we have alpha-gal syndrome. Now, there's no treatment for this per se. You mean once you have it, you basically have become a quasi-vegetarian, chicken and fish. And it's really, really upsetting to a lot of individuals because they can't enjoy the food that they like. 60% of individuals that have alpha-gal syndrome, this hypersensitivity to red meat, get severe reactions, absolutely almost anaphylactic-like. So it can be really, really scary. So that's alpha-gal syndrome in brief. It tells you a little bit about what to look for. It's kind of rare, but it does happen, especially with the explosion of ticks over the last 10 years. You know, we're probably going to see a lot more of it. So coming up in the next video, we're going to talk about alpha-gal treatment. All right, guys, if you like this video, thumbs up, smash that like button, and give us a follow. We'd love to have you guys, all right? Keep your eyes on the rise and your face to the wind. Watch out for those ticks.